الحمد لله حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافي مزيده. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبد الله ورسوله أرسله ربه بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم صل على سيدنا شفيعنا حبيبنا مولانا محمد وعلى سيدنا شفيعنا حبيبنا مولانا محمد. بارك وسلم صلاة وسلام عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وآله وسلم. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على سيدنا شفيعنا حبيبنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا شفيعنا حبيبنا مولانا محمد. بارك وسلم صلاة وسلام عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وآله وسلم، وعلى جميع الصحابة والتابعين، وعلى جميع الأئمة المجتهدين رضوان الله تعالى عليهم وآلهم أجمعين. يقول مولانا سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم واعلموا أن الله يحول بين المرء وقلبه وأنه إليه تحشرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. The brothers and sisters, this is the month of Muharram, and last Friday I talked about the sacrifice in this month, sacrifice in the month of Dhul-Hijjah, the sacrifice in this month of Muharram. In that regard, I mentioned the sacrifice of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam, as he sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam migrated from Makkah al-Mukarramah to Madinatul Munawwara, which was the new age for Islam. And I also mentioned another type of sacrifice in this month, and that was the sacrifice of Sayyidina Husain radiallahu ta'ala anhu against the tyrant, against the falsehood, and that shaped the Islamic history, and that is still remembered. Today, briefly, I would like to focus on this part. Last Friday, I talked about the Hijrah and the migration of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. But today, briefly, I would like to highlight Sayyidina Husain radiallahu ta'ala anhu's life. Husain, who is Husain? We should know he is one of the members of the family of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. And we should remember the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the members of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's mentioned in Quran many places. The ayah I just recited, Surah al-Ahzab, it talks clearly about the members of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their virtues, their merits, and their fadail. And our books, our means Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We, the Sunni, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. When we say Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, not today's definition, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah goes back to Sahaba, Tabi'in, and Imams radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Imams means the four Imams, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, and Hanbal radiallahu ta'ala anhu. They are the leaders of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We, the Muslims around the world, when we say the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we mean the Sahaba, followers of Sahaba, Tabi'in, and followers of these four Imams, rahimahumullah or radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So we, the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, our books, hadith books particularly, full of the description and virtues of the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imam Bukhari mentioned narrations and narrations and narrations. Imam Muslim likewise. Imam Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasai, Ibn Majah, Ahmad, you can name it. They're all the books of Ahadith. And these are our Imams. These are our Imams. We follow them. But what happens somehow, it's confusion in our society when we mention the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Husain or Hassan, it looks like we are Shia or we do not have anything to do with Al-Sunnah. No, not at all. That is not the case. But we do not exaggerate in their mentioning. When we mention, as they are mentioned in the tafasir, and we find the Qur'an in the Quran, ayah of the Quran, and we find the clear demonstration and clear narration in authentic ahadith. So we follow these guidelines. We follow these guidelines. But other people, they deviate from that guidelines. That's their issue. That is not our issue. But in that regard, this is so important. That's why I wanted to highlight that. And then one shade or one line of poetry I wanted to mention with you. If you or we, any of us think, or Muslim community thinks, that mentioning the family of the Prophet ﷺ is being the sign of Shia or Shi'is, Imam Shafi'i. Remember, Imam Shafi'i, who is Imam Shafi'i, one of the greatest Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, one of the greatest Imam of the Islamic history in the second century of Hijrah. He says in one of his famous lines, it was a poet, mashallah, he says, لو كان رفضا حب علي محمد لو كان رفضا حب علي محمد فليشهد الثقلان أني رافضي. What does it mean? He says, if this is mentioning the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the being or the sign of being a Shia or the Rafidi, so the Thaqalan, human being, the entire creation, human being and the ins and the jinnat or the jinn should witness that I am Rafidi, I am the Shia. Who said that? That is Shafi'i radiallahu ta'ala. Imam of Al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah says, لو كان رفضا حب آل محمد فليشهد الثقلان أني رافضي. If mentioning Husayn, mentioning Hassan, mentioning Ali Fatima, or family of the Prophet in general, family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if this is the sign of being a Shia or Rafidi, so Shafi'i is among them. So what we can know that it's nothing wrong to mention to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about them in the Quran, and the ahadith of Ahlul Sunnah is full of that, or the collections of ahadith full of that. And Imam Shafi'i demonstrated clearly and expressed his love to them, and expressing our love to them is the sign of Iman, the sign of being a true Muslim, sign of being true Muslim. And particularly when we talk about them, so we talk about Sayyidina Husain because he left for us a remarkable history. He stood up against the tyrant, and this is the lesson for us. We should read his history, his whole biography, how he migrated from Madinatul Munawwara towards the Kufa, and he was stopped in the middle. And when he was stopped, he thought the people did not allow the other people on other side. They were the Muslims. They were Muslims. We do not say they were the Kafir. They were the Muslims. They stopped him and his family to proceed to Kufa, and finally they were killed. Sayyidina Husain radiallahu ta'ala, with entire his family, he was killed there. The place is known as Karbala. He was killed there, and the history is well known. So we should read this history, and we should teach this history to our children, our generation. We always talk about our generation and generation and generation, but we do not mention our Aslaf's history. There are many things to learn. So when we teach our children, our young generations, or upcoming generation about the history of Husayn radiallahu ta'ala anhu, there are many things to learn. The one of the lesson we can learn in that he stood up against the batil, against the false, against the tyrant. And whatever we have seen recently, uprisings in Arab world, you can link that to the Sayyidina Husain radiallahu ta'ala anhu's lifestyle. Because in these uprisings, you can find that these people, these Muslim brothers, they stood up against the tyrant. They stood up against the falsehood. They are talking about the haqq. They are talking about the haqq. And the haqq goes, or the lineage of haqq goes back to our aslaf. And among them is Sayyidina Husain. Therefore, brothers and sisters, this is a Juma talk, and I don't have the time here or the digital time, but this is one of the subjects we should talk about it. We should talk about it, and we should learn ourselves, and we should teach our children as well. And tonight, inshallah, I'm going to hold a complete session on that. Ahlul Bayt, Fil Quran wa Sunnah, or the family of the Prophet alayhi salam, in the light of Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. After Maghrib prayer, I will share with you the Zoom link if you can attend that. So it will be great, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم قل الله أكبر. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا شفيع حبيبنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا شفيع حبيبنا مولانا محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم وعلى جميع الصحابة والتابعين وعلى جميع الأئمة المجتهدين رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. Very briefly, just one narration. Sayyidina Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam is praying in his masjid, and Husain radiallahu ta'ala comes and rides on his back. And Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam make his sujood longer until he get off. Husain radiallahu ta'ala. And then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam finished his prayer. This is the hadith we always quote and cite in terms of what? To justify bringing the children to the masjid, to justify our action. This hadith always we cite to justify our action, bringing the children to the masjid and letting them play inside of the masjid. But we forget the aspect, who was that? That was Husain. That was grandson of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, because of whom Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam made his sajda longer. So he could pray, and when he got off, then Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam finished his prayer. And this is the authentic hadith. So this, and there are many more to learn in his seerah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to follow the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Allahumma ansur al-Islam wal